So let's talk test layout, just so you get a chance to kind of hear me go through what to expect on test day as far as questions and timing. So on the test, this is the order in which you'll do it. You're going to start with part one, and part one is going to be a multiple choice section that has 30 questions. Those 30 questions, you are not allowed to use a calculator, and you will have 60 minutes to do them. So essentially, you need to average about 2 minutes per question. Now, in there's going to be some that you get done in 30 seconds, and then there's going to be some that you spend several minutes on, but it should balance out to about 2 minutes a question. And then part two is also multiple choice. It is going to be 15 questions. This time you're allowed to use your calculator. Doesn't mean necessarily you'll use it on every single one. Usually out of the 15, I would say 8 or 9 of them, you end up feeling like the calculator is very necessary. And in that section, you'll have 45 minutes. So it works out to be 3 minutes per question in that part, primarily because entering things in your calculator just takes more time. And so to allow for that, they give you more time per question. After you're done with those two parts, you will have a break. When the break is finished, it's time for free response. So the way the free response is set up is you will first be given the first two questions, so question one and question two, and you'll have a half an hour with your calculator to work on those two questions only. Free response questions are designed to take about 15 minutes each. Again, you're probably going to have one that you only spend 6 or 7 minutes on, and you'll probably have one that you spend 20 minutes on, but it should be an average of 15. Once you get to the end of that 30 minutes, you're going to be told to put your calculator away, and then you can then turn to the last four questions, questions 3, 4, 5, and 6. You will still have access to question 1 and 2. However, you no longer have a calculator. So anything that you needed to calculate, maybe a definite integral, maybe a graph that you need to see where things intersect, you want to make sure you do that while you have your calculator. If you need to go back on question 1 and 2 and clean things up, maybe add a little more detail, some units, an explanation, you can still do that. So then on questions 3 through 6, you'll have an hour to go through them, and you will no longer have a calculator. So essentially, you have an hour and a half worth of time for 6 free response, so 15 minutes each, but only a calculator for the first half an hour. That is the test. As far as scoring, just to give you an idea with scoring, there is no guessing penalty. So you definitely want to, on multiple choice, make sure you answer every single question. Even if it's an educated guess where you can eliminate one or two choices and you have to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, that's better than nothing. You don't want to leave anything blank. On the multiple choice, every one you get right, you will earn 1.2 points. So it's weird that it's 1.2 points and not just 1 point. The reason is they want the multiple choice and the free response to be weighted evenly. So your free response are 9 points each, 6 questions. So 9 times 6 is 54. On multiple choice, if they take the 45 questions and multiply that by 1.2, you get 54. So that's how they get their total scoring. You have 108 points you can earn total, and it is a complete balance between the multiple choice questions and the free response questions. Free response questions, the national average out of 9, I've mentioned this, is usually somewhere between 3 and 5. Every now and then there's a question that students tend to do really well, and you get that average that's pushing 5-ish. But there's also usually one question, and sometimes it's the one at the end because I think people are just tired by that point, that the average may only end up being 2 to 3. Basically, wherever you can find cheap points, whether it's just knowing a formula but not knowing what to do next, or knowing how to set something up but not knowing how to integrate, you want to take advantage of those opportunities. So I kind of have some tips down here. I already mentioned no guessing penalty. There are lots of partial credit for FRQs. You do not need to earn all 9 to be successful. If you can find a way to earn 4 or 5 or 6 points on a FRQ, you're doing great. Put all your work down. If you're doing an integral on your calculator, so if you're integrating something from 5 to 8 of some function, write that down. Say what you're integrating, and then go to your calculator. If you have a decimal value that you don't want to round, make sure you write down at least the first 3 digits. You always want to work with 3 decimal place accuracy if it is something that you're using a calculator and you get a decimal. What else? Words like justify. If you see the word justify, that means you need to explain. You can't just say, when it says, well, where is the maximum? You can't just say, here it is. You need to explain why. Tell me what's happening. Prior to this point, my derivative is positive, and then after my derivative is negative, therefore it's a maximum, something like that. Same with the word explain. Make sure you're explaining. It can be words, it can be symbols. You don't have to use proper grammar. You don't have to use proper spelling and sentence structure. You just have to make sure your work is clear, legible, and explains what you're doing. If it asks you for units, if it says something about units, you're not really converting units, you're just working with units that are there. But that gives you an idea of what they expect. Look for keywords that signal derivatives versus integrals. I'm going to make a separate video about that. So when you see certain terms, that's going to indicate that I need to derive something, or certain terms indicate I need to integrate something. Again, remember the goal is not perfection. I do not expect everyone to be getting all sorts of points. Best thing to think about is you want to be trying to get over half the points. So out of the first 30 questions, if you're getting 16 or more right, you're doing great. Your next 15 questions, you want to try to get 8 or more right. On the free response, you want to try to get 4 or 5 points per question. There's probably going to be one you feel more comfortable with than others, and it kind of balances out. What you're bringing lots of pencils. They do not want mechanical. You are allowed to use pens how on the free response. However, they have to always be the same color. So if you're planning on using a pen, you don't have to. I'm a big fan of pencils. They have to always be black or always be blue. You can't switch part way. You can't change colors. You make sure your calculator, if it's a charged calculator, is charged. If it's a battery operated calculator, has batteries that aren't about to die. You can bring something to drink that just needs to stay underneath you, just kind of something that's out of the way. Bring an eraser so that you can fully erase things. If you're doing free response, rather than erasing, you can just cross something out. If you cross something out, they will not grade it. If you do something and then you decide to do something again, they will actually average your two answers. So you are better off going with the one that you think is the most correct. And then finally, just get a good night's sleep, relax, and know that no matter how you do, I'm super proud of you. It's been a crazy year and we've all made the best of it. And I think all of you are coming out of this class better than you went in, and that's the ultimate goal. So hopefully that helps just kind of give you an idea of what to expect on test day.